Friends, we are live. Rusty back here with you. CFLW, the show for this Monday, August the 25th. I hope you are doing well. As you can already see from the radar, it is another fairly wet, somewhat stormy early afternoon across Central Florida. That has been the trend the last several days. Of course, over our weekend to bring us some wet conditions very early in the forecast day. We'll take a look at what's going to be happening for the rest of today. Look if there's any opportunity for some stronger storms, how long this frontal boundary is going to be sticking around, and the changes in the impacts an extremely powerful August cold front will have to the United States eastern third, and if it has any impacts for us. As always, CFLW, the show, is sponsored by the leading law firm of Central Florida. They're your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys, friends at storm season. You get a storm into your area of any kind, wind, hail, hurricane damage. They can walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. They do offer free consultation and policy reviews, and they cover the entire state, so you really have nothing to lose. Go to leanonmelaw.com if you guys would like more information. As always, love to hear from you guys. Appreciate those who join me for the live version of the show here. Gonna jump into the chat and say hi. Hey, Jesse, how you doing? Spring Hill, a cloudy and rain-cooled 80 degrees with a dew point of 78. Yes, the humidity values are still outrageously high with this rain. Hey, Nancy, how you doing? Wedgefield, 84 degrees with some showers. Good afternoon to you. Blue Goose back into the house. 90 degrees up there, a little bit calmer up in St. Augustine at the hour. Under mostly cloudy skies. Got the Cafe Bustelo ready to go. I hear you, buddy. And appreciate everyone joining in. Again, you have a specific question about the forecast, feel free to drop it in the comments section below. We'll get started with what's happening across the area at the hour. We still have our frontal boundary, which is basically just draped over the northern part of the state. You can kind of see that here depicted by this trough in orange and then this weak front up to the north. But it's within close enough proximity where waves of energy coming out of the eastern Gulf will continue to ride right across the central and the southern sides of the state. For the hour, we are getting some relatively cloudy conditions, and we're getting some showers continuing to stream across the area at the hour as well. So again, we have a few storms out there at this point in time. We've had some good gusty winds. Nothing has been on the stronger side so far for today. This is what it looks like live from the radar out of Melbourne. And again, a couple of lightning strikes here and there. Let me put on a couple of different things for us here. We'll switch over first of all to the wind gusts at the hour, see if we've had anything outrageous. Strongest winds I've noted for the hour has been in portions of Pinellas County down towards the St. Pete airport there, 32 mile an hour breeze there. Largo on over towards Pinellas Park, 23. And again, we've had some passing showers. Everything, just like the last several days, has been working its way west to east. So relatively wet right now over towards Land O'Lakes and Temple Terrace and Mango, East Lake, Brandon. Just passing showers, an isolated thunderstorm, a gusty wind from here to there, but nothing outrageously strong. Same situation for a good chunk of the eastern side of Polk County and into Osceola County right now. It's not going to be a fantastic drive across I-4. You get towards the Champions Gate area, Four Corners, Celebration, rain for Davenport, showers, a few isolated storms up towards Kissimmee, down the turnpike there in Osceola County towards St. Cloud, drifting east towards Holopaw, 192. We've seen a few showers and storms even develop in our eastern areas so far. So a little bit of lightning associated with this cell right over the Palm Bay, West Melbourne areas, of course, moving east. So it's going across the coastline with some showers towards Melbourne Beach and in the Atlantic. So even early on this Monday afternoon, for any beachgoers right now, we're running a few inland. Look, most of this is rain, but there are some embedded thunderstorms. The highest lightning count is to our southern areas. You get back into the Orlando metro area, and it's more spotty showers than anything else. Again, notice that we look at these winds, and these polygons that you see are going to be your wind or your direction of your storms, and they're moving east, and they have some good forward speed, 15 to 20 miles an hour for most of these showers. So a couple of showers in the southeast side of Orange County, in the eastern side of Metro Orlando overall, Avalon Park, couple of showers towards University Park and UCF and Chuliota, back over towards Indian River City and Titusville as you get east of I-95 in Brevard County, couple of showers over the Cape, another string of showers from the Eustis, Umatilla areas, back off towards Mount Dora, Tavares, Bassville Park, Mount Plymouth, and then crossing into Seminole County near Sanford. Again, no lightning with any of this activity at the hour, but showers, downpours. You're going to want the umbrella the remainder of the day, and more rain from the eastern sides of Orange County back into northern Lake and Volusia County. So De Leon Springs, DeLand, a couple of scattered showers towards the Port Orange area, Ponce Inlet, New Smyrna. Again, no lightning at the hour with any of that activity. And additional showers are just beginning to move back on shore. Portions of Citrus County, Hernando and Inverness, and then back to coastal sides of Hernando and Pasco County. So, get back down towards the Newport Richey area and Land O'Lakes. And again, all of this will continue to work its way from west to east. So it's going to be another active afternoon, my friends. There's still going to be the opportunity for some storms to flare up later in the day that could brew some gusty winds, 40, 45 mile an hour winds. Could we get a special weather statement for the winds? It's not out of the question. Will we get additional showers and storms redeveloping in the afternoon like we had the last couple of days? Absolutely. Let's take a look at our live camera network here at CFLW. This is a live shot to Winter Garden. If you look in the foreground, there's a couple of spritzels of rain coming in, another shower developing in the western sides of Orange County. And this is a pretty common sight outside of the slightly stronger storms in our southern areas. You have relatively overcast skies, peaks of sunshine here or there, more stratiform clouds than are actually the high towering billowing cumulonimbus clouds. But, it's promoted some, again, passing showers in an isolated rumble of thunder. This is our new camera. If you guys are new to the channel or haven't tuned in for a while, we continue to expand our live camera network here at Central Florida Weather Live, and this is our newest camera. We call this the Lean Law Cam. You can see the breezy conditions in the northern sides of Orange County. This is Winter Park. Again, relatively overcast skies, passing showers around the Winter Park area, breezy 15, 20, 25 mile an hour winds from time to time. And just, again, a relatively wet afternoon ahead. Live look outside to Conway. This is in the southeast side of Metro Orlando. Again, a couple of sprinkles here or there. Now we can see some of the actual thunderstorms closer to the coastline. Again, this camera is looking east towards the east coast. You can see there is some vertical development to the cloud coverage, some darker bases there. So again, can't rule out a couple of better thunderstorm chances here, but through all of Central Florida, the remainder of the afternoon, there is going to be chances for storms to fire up with higher rain totals, locally heavy rainfall, and more lightning as well. A higher lightning count with the storms that get going in the afternoon. And this is the dark storms to the south. I showed you those on the radar back down towards Celebration and the Champions Gate area. Again, this camera is just 1 mile north of the Magic Kingdom, and we're looking back south to the attractions in the Magic Kingdom and the Disney property. So you can see that shelf cloud that's just a little bit away right now from Lake Buena Vista. It's trying to build north while also moving off towards the east. So it's an ominous sky right now for the attractions I Drive area, but dry at this point in time. But again, how close to these storms get before they push off to the east and how much more could redevelop. The bottom line is, my friends, with the scenario that we've had into play the last couple of days and again this afternoon, thunderstorm chances are going to be on the higher side. So there's our camera in Lake Buena Vista, and it's looking right into this storm right now. And you can see the leading edge of that is just a couple of miles away from the Magic Kingdom itself. I'll put this into motion. And again, we always cover the attractions specifically here on the channel because we know that's an area where there's always going to be a lot of folks who are outdoors. And you can clearly see that although this storm is moving east, it is building to the north. So Lake Buena Vista, I Drive could get clipped by this thunderstorm as it moves through. And there's a little bit of lightning associated with that with some pretty heavy rain towards Champions Gate and the Celebration area. That will then slide towards Kissimmee and Buenaventura Lakes and the Meadowwoods area towards MCO and Medical City. Let me jump back into the chat. Appreciate you guys jumping in. Hey, Ashley, how you doing? Said, adjusted your toddler's nap time so you could catch the live show. Well, first of all, I hope your toddler is fine with the adjusted nap time. I think most babies just want to nap whenever that is. And Ashley, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to join us here live. I hope you're getting something out of it. Thanks for being a part of the chat. Thanks for being a part of the channel. Blue Goose, love the cameras as well. Again, the goal is to continue to add across the area. Hey, Kish, how you doing? Good afternoon in the office. 5 minutes from Tampa. TPA on the 8th floor looking out west. It's been gloomy on and off since the very early hours. Yeah, no doubt about it. Again, you look off towards the Gulf right now, and it is going to be another situation where we continue to have, widespread showers and storms. That's the forecast in general here. I don't know why my infrared satellite imagery is not looping up. Let me do this real quick. Oh, it looks like I'm getting a spin. All right, that's fine. I can just take that off for a second. Absolutely. Look, again, still going to get some waves of energy coming in. It's going to be a situation where that's not going to change anytime soon, right? So more showers, more storms. And if you're speaking along the West Coast, by the way, this is something I wanted to mention. This is going to be the area with the highest chance for excessive rainfall for today. So what you're looking at is the excessive rainfall potential. This is the 5 to 10% ring, meaning that portions of Hernando and Pasco, all of Pinellas and Hillsborough, and all of Manatee and Sarasota counties, and even sneaking into the western side of Polk County, have a 5 to 10% chance of exceeding flash flood criteria in this area today. It's not a high chance, but it gives you an idea that we could see some locally heavy rainfall continuing to develop along the west coast and slipping towards I-75. So, Highway 19 over towards I-75, but it does include big areas, Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater, all included in that opportunity for some excessive rainfall for the remainder of the day. We take a look at the excessive rainfall for tomorrow. You notice that no area at this point in time is under an excessive rainfall potential for tomorrow. And then for Wednesday, again, no area under an excessive rainfall potential for Wednesday. And we're going to be talking about how, look, it's been wet, it's been stormy, how and why we are going to start to dry out a little bit for you guys as well. Another thing I want to mention before we move on to the forecast is I'm going to bring up our advisories real quickly. We still have some marine issues. We still have rip current statements. This marine statement is going to be for the thunderstorms that are moving offshore at this point in time. So, Brevard County with some of the storms that are pulling off the coast, a little bit of lightning, you got to watch out for that. The flood warnings that you're going to see for Volusia Lake and Hillsborough County, they're not flood warnings for urban areas. They're flood warnings for the rivers. So we do have a flood warning in effect for the St. Johns near the Astor area, affecting Lake and Volusia counties. We've had enough rainfall, guys, where the bottom line is that we're starting to see some minor flooding that is forecast in the Astor area. Now, if you know the St. Johns River Basin, the river basin itself is more than 500,000 acres, right? It's a very flat basin. Your grade along the St. Johns River, which, by the way, is one of the only rivers in the United States that flows north, is about an inch per mile that it drops. So it's a flat basin, it floods, it takes a while to flood, but it takes a while to recede. So, it's actually fairly easy, I want to say, for the hydraulic outlook to forecast flooding because it takes such a long time for it to really develop. So the Astor area, which is prone to flooding along the St. Johns, is under a flood warning. Now for Hillsborough County, the flood warning obviously is not going to be for the St. Johns. It's going to be for the Little Manatee River there at US 301 affecting Hillsborough County. There is minor flooding that is forecast there. It does begin tomorrow afternoon and it does go until further notice. And at 13 feet, the canoe rental area floods. So it does give you an idea of exactly where we're talking about. So we do have the Little Manatee and the St. Johns rivers that are seeing some minor flooding at particular locations because of some of the heavier rainfall that we've seen lately. So if you live along those areas, first of all, you're well aware of the potential flooding risk. But if you are any boat goers or canoe goers, keep an eye out for some of that situation. Hey, Fiona, how you doing? Fiona has Altamont Springs sunshine. Guess that's going to change. It's not going to last long, Fiona. I can tell you that much. If you're seeing a little bit of sun right now, consider yourself lucky. There's no doubt about it. Linda says it's really coming down here. No lightning or thunder. Yeah, there's not a ton of lightning at this point in time. There is some, but there's not a lot. Let me get the lightning count back up here for you guys so you can see that. From our entire Central Florida view in the last 15 minutes, we've only had 27 lightning strikes. It's mainly confined in southern areas. And you notice that nothing is very organized. Now, I'll say this again, we're going to keep an eye on this storm with our Lake Buena Vista camera, our attractions camera, because lightning is beginning to pick up in that storm. It's getting heavier across 27, 192. So this will impact Kissimmee and Buenaventura Lakes. And we've had gusts from time to time, some decent wind gusts here and there as well. Bring back on those wind gusts. Those are temperatures, by the way, which are all over the place right now. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you're going to get those live temperatures popping up for you guys, which will be anywhere from the upper 70s to the lower 90s, just depending on if you've had any thunderstorms in your area. But one thing that has come along with this rain so far today is some pretty gusty winds, 20, 25, maybe 30 miles an hour from time to time. Hey, Rhea, how you doing? Good to see you. Appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for being a friend of the channel. Thanks for being a friend of Media Mundo. Always glad to see you and hope things are well with you. The Blue Goose St. John's is a very unique river, right? It was probably just some kind of marshy basin, and then who knows how many thousands of years ago there was some tectonic activity which produced just enough of a dip where you had the slightest of rivers develop. Again, the flow of that is one of the weakest, and the grade is so low, and of course it flowing north. It's all very unique indeed, but it does cause some flooding issues, and it's such a large basin because it's so flat too. I mean, it's Florida, interior Florida, that you get what you get. All right, so now let's get into kind of the forecast for the remainder of today and how things are going to end up changing a little bit. I'm going to go out to the big perspective here, right? And let's throw on temperatures, let's throw on the rain. Because believe it or not, we've got some big changes coming our way, and it's thanks to an August cold front. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, it's not going to really impact us that much. It's Florida in August. Here's the thing. Temperature-wise, it's not going to impact us that much. But can it try and knock out some of this rain and cut the humidity down? Absolutely. These are your current temperatures at this 1 o'clock hour on this Monday. And I mean, you've got 50s and 60s across the Great Lakes. That cold front is beginning to work off of the East Coast, and we are going to see a nice push of cooler and drier air through much of the eastern third of the United States, east of the Mississippi River. And this will eventually wash out this front and get it out of here and get us drier. Now, are we going to be much cooler? No. But could we knock out a little bit of the humidity? That's what I'm hoping for, no doubt about it. Yeah, cold front, I say. I know, right? It's all relative, my friend. It's all relative, but you know, if you are traveling north before the Labor Day weekend, you'll feel it. Here, you know, again, it dries us out a bit. It cools things off a little bit as well. So let's get into that part of the forecast one more time before we do. You know, because we're live, and I appreciate you guys tuning in, I just want to keep an eye on this storm. Again, if you know anyone who works at the attractions, or maybe one of those locals who just loves to visit, they're there right now, and they're not paying attention, you know, that's a storm that more than likely is going to run right over the Magic Kingdom and Epcot and Universal and probably SeaWorld, basically the attractions area, Epic Universe. So that's a nasty storm, and I am worried about the lightning with that one. So give them a heads up. That's one that could actually be a little bit dangerous with the lightning that could be developing on that north end of that storm. So we'll keep an eye on that one as we go through the rest of our live stream here in our live show. All right, let me jump back on camera and let's get into the forecast. So as I typically do, and I'm going to go back to this view real quickly here. I'm going to bring up our HER model first. It's our high resolution rapid refresh. It's a fantastic short-term high resolution model. Oops. There it is. I'm going to run through the storm chances. I've got some city by city forecasts for you guys to look at as well. We'll talk very quickly about the tropics. You'll know that this time of the year, if I'm not leading this live show with the tropics, that means that there is nothing imminently that is going to be impacting us. Now, you can clearly see on the HER model, this little mid-level spin right here, right? It's a situation. That's part of the energy that's going to be kicked out eventually by the front coming in. But until it does so, it's still going to be a pretty wet, stormy forecast, at least through tomorrow. Wednesday's kind of the transition day to try and get a little bit drier air in place. But still in the short term, although I'm not expecting there to be any organized severe storms, you know, there is still the opportunity for some stronger storms. Now, in the next 90 minutes, the HER model really lines up these storms in our far southern areas, where on the southern flank of this is where we could see the most wind impact. So if you live in portions of Pinellas or western Hillsborough County, especially back down toward Manatee and Sarasota County, So from Clearwater to St. Pete, Bradenton, Sarasota, Anna Maria Island, places like that, we might get some rowdier storms developing there. Again, the main threats are going to be winds of over 40 miles an hour. So we can't rule out a special weather statement here or there, but to hit the severe weather criteria, severe thunderstorm criteria of 60-mile-an-hour winds, an inch-size hail, and/or it's not out of the question, but more than likely these would be just stronger storms. Now you notice that this push initially on the HRRR model is to dive these storms south. The HRRR model also has a few storms redeveloping along our east coast. So even Flagler and Daytona Beach, Flagler Beach, Daytona Beach, Ormond Beach could be in on that act. Again, a couple of redeveloping storms across I-95, but the bulk of the storm activity for the remainder of the early afternoon hours is in our southern areas. Then I can't rule out some storms trying to kind of redevelop again. Now, they haven't redeveloped very widespread in the late afternoon, especially the early evening hours, but along the West Coast it's possible. So to back this up again, right, still expecting there to be some waves of storms, Orlando north, expecting the storms to be a little bit more prominent this afternoon, Tampa, St. Pete, Bradenton, Sarasota, Lakeland, on over towards the southern sides of Brevard County, so Melbourne, Palm Bay, maybe as far north as Mare Island. That's the opportunity for the most widespread heavy rain, frequent lightning, and gusty winds. Storms should push off to the south. The remainder of the afternoon hours will be left with relatively overcast skies and pretty humid conditions. And then we're going to see, again, a few more showers and storms, just like we've had the last couple of days, redevelop even before daybreak across the West Coast and towards US 19 and I-75. So, 41 included in this, of course, even 301. So Homosassa Springs and Crystal River and Inverness and Spring Hill, Dade City, Land O'Lakes, St. Pete, Tampa, all morning drive time or before, we could see another round of showers and storms. It's another wet Tuesday ahead with relatively overcast conditions. More energy getting pushed out of the eastern Gulf, riding from west to east. Same storm motion, kind of rinse and repeat. Thunderstorms tomorrow on the HRRR are a little bit farther north. But look, in general, I have high rain chances across Central Florida for our Tuesday still. And again, waves of energy. And this is indicative of a nice little mid-level low spinning across our area, which again could enhance some of the thunderstorm activity. And you can see that because we could actually have some interior storms as we get into Wednesday morning. This will begin the transition out of the wetter pattern. So I'm going to put this into motion in a broad perspective. Again, storms today, redeveloping tomorrow, spinning back in. The bottom line is you should continue to expect wet and stormy conditions. From time to time, some gusty winds that could promote a special weather statement. From time to time, heavy enough rainfall, especially along the West Coast for today, where we could have some flood advisories or even a flash flood warning. So if you're prone to seeing some flooding in your area, be aware of that. These storms can produce some heavy rainfall from time to time, and several inches in very isolated and localized locations are not out of the question here, at least through Wednesday morning. Kish said, maybe I missed it, but I heard of a cool down coming to the northeast. Is this okay? Kish, when did you ask that? We were just talking about that. So hopefully I'm answering that, and that's what I'm getting into. Absolutely. Again, that was part of the thumbnail title here for us here, is that there is an August cold front coming, but let's talk about how that really is going to impact us. I'm going to switch over now to the GFS model because it takes us out a little bit farther in time. And then I'm just going to take you out through just Wednesday night. But I want to kind of show you the transition through Wednesday night. So here's the GFS model. You've got your timestamp on the top left-hand side of your screen, right? Clearly, as we get through our Wednesday, the 27th, drier and drier conditions begin to move in. Now, ultimately, is it going to be completely dry? No, right? It's extremely rare in August. We still have localized sea breeze actions, and there's still going to be some storms. But we're going to get rid of this pattern. Finally, at least, right? We're going to push all of this instability out of here. We're going to dissipate that front, and we're going to get some drier air to be coming in. And it's all thanks to a very powerful cold front for this time of the year. Let's look at these temperatures. So this is the GFS model temperature-wise, right? Your color palette is on the top-hand side of your screen, but it's not hard to know. I mean, it's a regular color palette. Your darker reds and maroons, that's hotter weather. Your blues are going to be your cooler conditions. And, just going to let this loop up, but you're going to clearly see that for all of the Great Lakes in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley and the Tennessee Valley and the Northeast and the Appalachians, even portions of the Mid-Atlantic states, there is some comfortable and cool conditions that'll be coming in. This is Wednesday morning. And if we look at these temperatures here, you know, morning lows in northern sides of Georgia could slip into the upper 40s. You know, Nashville, 55. You get into some higher mountains here in western side of North Carolina. So 40s and 50s, you know. Look at some of these numbers here. And again, this is 5 a.m. So if I go to 8, it might even be cool in a couple of spots. Obviously, your morning low is 6:30, 7 o'clock at this time. But you get the idea, right? I mean, this is fresh, cool conditions. And then for us, we're still in the 70s, right? You know, we are going to get a glancing blow from this cold front here in the state. If I take this out to Thursday morning, give it just 1 second to loop up. Again, you'll notice that these blues and even the lighter yellows, there's not a huge push south of the Atlanta area. It's just a little bit, right? So if we look at, you know, I'll go back to 5 a.m. here. Let's see here. So this is Thursday morning. Again, not a lot of change with our temperatures. You're going to get some 60s in the Panhandle, you know, Tallahassee, Mariana, Pensacola, Crestview. You're going to get some 60s. You know, Atlanta's going to be nice. But it's not about the temperatures. It's about this, the dew point. That's the thing that we can cut out some to make it at least feel nicer. Forget a cold front in August, particularly, doing anything to our temperature. I mean, if we can get into the upper 80s, that's chef's kiss. But what we can do is we can get rid of this stinking humidity a bit and enjoy a couple of drier days. So relatively speaking, it feels nicer. And you're gonna see that this cold front is able to push drier air in. This, my friends, is just tomorrow morning. Already, we're starting to see in our northern area, tomorrow afternoon, dew points. What are these numbers? In the 50s, and maybe some lower 50s in some spots, right? So even by tomorrow afternoon, you're gonna start to get some drier air coming in. Now look, it's still gross in most areas. So if you live in Daytona Beach or Palm Coast or St. Augustine or the Ocala area, Jacksonville, you know, you'll feel it tomorrow afternoon. The air beginning to dry out a bit, appreciably. Like it's enough where it really matters. Then as we get into Wednesday, again, you know, Wednesday and Thursday, can we nudge in just a little bit drier air? Now look, I don't want to overstate in some areas what this is going to end up doing, but even if we can get these dew points to get a little bit more into the 60s through a lot of our area, this is what we're looking for. It's not gonna last long. 2 days up north, 1 day south. Look, it's not outrageously lower in Orlando. I'm hoping it's a little bit lower than this overall, but just 60s is fine. If we can nudge out a couple of 50s, sure, we'll take that as well. But that's the biggest impact that this cold front is going to have in Central Florida, is to lower the dew points, to lower the feels like temperatures, to make the air feel a little bit drier for a day or two. And there you go. That's the best that we can do. Now, the interesting thing is, again, you get up north and these dew points are in the 40s and 50s. You know, even Jacksonville and Tallahassee, you know, these are pretty low dew points for August. Remember, it is August. You know, we're not talking about an early fall front here. We're talking about the heart of summertime. So to get that reprieve. Now look, it's not going to last. We're right back into some warmer, hotter conditions for the Labor Day weekend. And coming up on the Friday show, we'll obviously preview very significantly the Labor Day forecast. I've already looked a little bit at it. Again, unfortunately, I think we're getting back into a wetter pattern, but you know, I'll have a much clearer idea of the Labor Day weekend forecast as we get towards Friday. But I don't like the overall pattern that I see as far as wanting to get outside and enjoy here in Central Florida. Let's break down some forecasts for you guys. We'll start off here in Orlando. Again, extremely wet, stormy day tomorrow. Still some localized heavier downpours. Isolated flash flooding is a possibility. Gusty winds, special weather statements, not out of the question. Overall severe storm chance is relatively low, but not zero. So it's an 80% chance for storms overall for your Tuesday. Here's your slightly drier air. We'll take the 50% chance for storms on Wednesday. Now farther north, you'll have a little bit lower chance, and we might be able to lower that a bit as well. Again, we're right on the border of really feeling that front, but right back at it. We're up to a 70% chance for storms on Thursday. Storms build it again. And again, it's not about the temperature dropping off much, although we'll take some 74-degree morning lows. It's more about the air being a little bit drier and how that makes it feel a bit more comfortable outside. Again, if you live in St. Pete, Clearwater, Tampa, Bradenton, Sarasota areas, Hudson, storms will arrive early tomorrow morning, even up towards Crystal River. 70% chance overall, but don't be shocked if there's some morning rain when you wake up and it's a wet drive into work. Showers and storms will again continue to potentially redevelop through the afternoon hours. Again, slightly drier on Wednesday, 90 degrees, 50% chance for storms, 76 the morning low, back up to a 60% chance on Thursday with a high of 91 degrees. For Ocala, okay, 70% chance for storms. Again, some of that early, right? And then more storms redeveloping in the afternoon. So it's still a wet forecast tomorrow for Ocala and the Villages and Inverness and places like that in our northwest areas. But Ocala, the Villages, Inverness, Gainesville, Alachua County in general, Marion County in general, you'll really feel the drier air on Wednesday. 40% chance for an isolated storm in the afternoon, by far the lowest we've had in weeks. And certainly less humid. Enjoy it. Again, not much to the temperature, 90 degrees, but if we can get 90 degrees with a dew point in the 50s, that's a beautiful late August afternoon here in Central Florida. We're back up to a 60% chance for storms on Thursday with a daytime high of 91. Again, morning lows, not that bad. They will be in the lower 70s. For Daytona Beach, storms will still be likely tomorrow, but I do anticipate that drier air getting into coastal Volusia County as well. So we'll see a 70% chance tomorrow. Same scenario, heavy rain, gusty winds, beaches. You might be running back indoors a little bit earlier than you want to. We'll see more isolated storms on Wednesday afternoon, 40% chance. And then we're back up to a 50 on Thursday. So building rain chances, again, it really is kind of like, you know, late Tuesday, throughout Wednesday, and maybe early Thursday that we see the impacts of this front. But pretty quickly our localized sea breeze kick back in, more moisture quickly returns to the area, and thunderstorm chances will begin to build. Thursday they begin to build, and like as I've mentioned, starting on Friday through the Labor Day weekend, I'm not extremely optimistic about getting a lot of dry hours out of this here. We'll have much more of that on the Friday show. I see something green on my chat. Hey Rhea, $4.99 super stickers. Thank you very much, Ray. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you being a big friend of the channels. Let's get the hearts out in Ray in the chat, please. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. Appreciate all those who have found ways to support the channel and all the friends of us here and joining in on the YouTube chat as well. So thank you very much, Ray, for that $4.99 super stickers. Really, really appreciate that. Does anyone have any specific questions about the forecast as we're moving along? Feel free to drop into the comments section below. Of course, while you're down there, thank you so much for taking a quick second and liking and subscribing. We are live here on this early Monday afternoon, and that's a live shot from Winter Garden. Again, really interesting cloud structure. Everything is very stratiform at the hour. No building cloud tops out there, but again, peaks of some showers and a few rumbles of thunder in the distance, absolutely. This is what it looks like in Winter Park, so the skies have really filled back in here. Great conditions in the northern side of Orange County right now. Again, this is the lean log cam from Winter Park. A little bit of a breeze, but that's a very common sight right now. And along the coastline, you guys are starting to see those storms get a little bit more prominent at the hour. Again, this is from Conway. We're looking east towards the East Coast here from the southeast sides of the Orlando metro area. And you can see some of those storms. This is also one of the patterns for OIA. I see planes flying all the time here on the kind of background of this shot, but a beautiful shot there across the lake. And again, here's our storm building into Lake Buena Vista. Obviously, the skies have become overcast here, so that shelf cloud has worked its way north. Still expecting the bulk of that storm to move slightly east of the attractions, but we're getting closer to seeing some, lightning and some rain moving back into this area. And obviously the breeze is picking a little bit up as well. So back over to our live radar. And let's take one more look at what's going on at the hour for those who are just tuning in. So again, Lake Buena Vista is getting brushed by that storm at the hour. Let's bring back on our lightning data too. Few lightning strikes, a little bit more on the south side. You can see those. I do have this, again, filtered, so it's not all the lightning strikes, but Celebration south towards Champions Gate in the Loftman area. It's going to get a little bit wetter towards Kissimmee, Buenaventura Lake, St. Cloud. These were the storms that we were looking at from the Conway area. This is what we were picking up on. Mims, Titusville, Indian River City. So some heavier rain across the river there, moving over towards the Cape. Scattered showers over Merritt Island. Look, it's beginning to get a little bit more widespread. Still expecting, as the HRRR model picked up on, the southern flank to be the strongest over the next couple of hours. And this should try and dive south as it's working east. But even with some redevelopment here, on the northern sides of Hillsborough and back into Pasco counties, you know, you're getting more lightning. So the storms are picking it up just a little bit as they're moving back inland at the hour. And again, everything is moving west to east. Thunderstorm near the Inverness area. Good lightning across 44 as you head towards I-75. That's always a very gnarly interchange. It's always slow towards the villages in 301 and our friends in Wildwood, Eustis, Mount Dora, on over towards Sanford. Again, nice little downpour. Sanford, Lake Monroe, DeBerry over the St. Johns and Deltona. So any additional rain over the St. Johns River Basin is going to lead to potential, you know, more flooding concerns for the St. Johns and the Astor area. Again, everything flowing north, which means that the rain falling here will eventually get north towards Astor area. It's one of the, again, very unique things about the St. Johns. But again, such a flat basin, it takes a lot of time for it to develop into a flood and for it to recede. Again, after the hurricanes, it's months and months at times, you know, depending on the flood stage they get. Daytona Beach, South Daytona, Port Orange, and Ponce Inlet. Yeah, Fiona got gray now. Yeah, Fiona, that sunshine wasn't lasting. I didn't really want to say, hey, look, you got a couple of minutes, because sometimes you get a little bit lucky, but I would not expect there to be a lot of sunshine across our area for today. This is what it looks like on the visible satellite imagery at the hour. And again, just a lot of clouds out there, friends. That's going to continue to be the case. Again, really appreciate Rhea being a friend of the channel and helping to support it, and appreciate all those who have found ways to support the channel as well via the super things, the super stickers. You can find other ways in the description of the video below as well. Again, we're reinvesting, which is why we're bringing you that Winter Park camera now, and we'll continue to do so. Okay, friends, we have ripped through almost a 40-minute live stream. We've done really well today. Again, I'll be monitoring the situation to see if these storms ramp up and become a little bit rowdy. If necessary, I'll come on live, just like we did a live stream on Saturday. I was monitoring things, but it was just one of those where, you know, the radar can kind of handle things. But, you know, today, if we get a stronger storm, I'll jump on live and I'll cover it. Same situation for the next couple of afternoons. I do think today and tomorrow will be the best chance for any storms to get stronger, with the heavy rainfall being the really primary threat. But as far as any severe storms, it's going to be the winds. Can't rule out some smaller size hail, but it's mainly going to be the winds the next couple of days. Wednesday, we should be drier. Thursday, I think we're looking pretty good. And then, if I don't see you between now and then, I'll see you guys for Friday at 1 o'clock for the next CFLW The Show, where we will be breaking down in detail the Labor Day weekend forecast. We'll take a look at Friday's forecast, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Come with your questions. If you guys are going to be vacationing in specific areas of Florida, make sure you come along with your questions as to what the forecast is going to look like, but hopefully we'll break down all of that as well. Friends, again, I appreciate you tuning in to the live version of this. If you aren't watching the live version and you're watching the recorded version, you're more than welcome to still ask a question. I go back and I check out those other comments, and I'm happy to answer those questions for you guys as well. Hey, William, how you doing? Appreciate you jumping in here. I will say right at the very end, but thank you very much for jumping in the chat. Again, this is why I do this, guys, the interaction with you guys. I really do enjoy that aspect of it. So as we leave, please remember, CFLW is sponsored by the Lane Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. They do cover the entire state, my friends. So if you're watching from the Panhandle to the Keys, they got you covered. They'll walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. So storm damages your area, you got nothing to lose. Please go to leanomnilaw.com. Help support someone who does support us here on the channel. Have a great rest of your Monday. I'll be monitoring the situation. Thanks for taking a quick second and liking and subscribing on the way out. Take care. I'll see you soon right here on the channel.
you.